Greetings, 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 everyone. It is Uncle V. And let's see, what time is it? Saturday. No, yeah, this is, gosh, it's Sunday. What am I thinking? It is Super Bowl Sunday. Let me make sure that this is on mute here. Yep, it's good. Finally, I didn't blow your ears out. Hey, guys, you know what? I have a very special guest today, Christopher Gronski. And I will tell you that after he's going to make you go, he's going to make you change the lenses in your glasses. And I know that most of my audience is crypto savvy or crypto curious. And so Christopher is going to be able to talk about that and talk about taxes and all of that good stuff, and maybe even give you a little bit of encouragement and hope. But because of the subject matter, I need to share my screen here. I haven't played this for a while, but I need to do that disclosure thing. So the YouTube CENSORS, they don't give me a hard time. So I am going to open the show with this, and then we're going to dive in head first. All right. Greetings. Greetings. Used to be named Uncle Odd, but now I'm known as Uncle Vigilante. Yeah. And as you can see by the fact I'm wearing a gold chain with a Bitcoin on it, I'm kind of a big deal. Yeah, I'm a big deal. But there is one thing that my 43 attorneys that I just hired told me that I needed to say, which is a disclaimer. Don't take any of my advice. Don't take anything that I say on this show or any of my guests as sage counsel. Why? Why? Because I don't know shit. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. It is true. I don't know shit. Hello, Izzy in the chat. Hello, Donna, mother trucker in the chat. Good to see you. Looking forward to questions that you all may have as we speak with Christopher Gronski. Christopher, I want to open this up by saying that we probably should have been having this conversation maybe even a couple of years ago. Just want to give you a little bit of backstory because I named this live stream, "Where Are the White Hats?" Because for good reason. Just quick history. So, you know, everything that's been crazy that's happened or whatever over the last 2.5 years. Well, in April of 2020, I personally, now all of you watching, I know we all have different worldviews, and I try to, you know, sit on that fence because my channel is now about crypto. But there was a time where my channel was the Uncle Odd channel back in 2020. Why was it Uncle Odd? It's because my name is Todd, but my young nephew could never enunciate Todd. So I became Uncle Odd in my family. And ever since he gave me a hat that says Uncle Odd, that's just what my brothers, sisters, everybody calls me Uncle Odd. So that was the genesis of the show. And I launched it in 2020 in April, and went from no subs to about 10,000 subs over a 6-week period. Why? It's because I called it early. I called that all of this, you know, my point of view was bullshit that we were going through. And personally, I had a legal issue because I have a medical disability. I was almost drowned when I was 7, where I took on water and they had to pump me. And then everything was okay, except the next night. There's what's called secondary drowning. It's where when you still have water in your lungs, and it seems to happen 24, 36 hours later when you're sleeping, is that my brain tells my trachea that I'm drowning, and it needs to close so I don't take on more water. So I almost died a second time. So ever since then, from that young age, I have had a clinical case of claustrophobia. People who know me, I'm 57 years old, people who I've been in business with for 25 years, they always know if we go out, we go to dinner and entertain clients, they walk in and they say, okay, Toddy, where do you want us all to sit so that I can choose where I'm sitting so that I can have the view. So I knew when the mask thing was happening and they were starting to use the word mandate, I knew that if I covered my face, because I literally have medical diagnosis of PTSD, to where I'm doctored up, I'm lawyered up, I have an ADA advocate, I got everything in place so that because these mandates came with exemptions. And with those exemptions, they're very, very clear if you have a medical issue. So I would carry them with me. I have they call it an awareness badge. There's the proper
life alert.
Yeah, it has it's in my car. It has the wheelchair on it and everything. And so I'm going out there in the community, and I am literally, guys, the only one with a smiling face. And so when it became mandated for the masks, I was like, this is like, for me, might not be a big deal for you, but for me, it's kind of life or death. I really didn't want to experience my trachea closing. So long story tolerable, I have a 3-count lawsuit against Costco. Wow. And it has been over a year. It was dismissed. It's now in the appellate court. Those who know me, they know that I'm not shy to to a fight. And so we've taken it to the Court of Appeals, the 11th District. And I believe one day I will win, because it was just such a railroad. It gave me such vision into this, our legal system and everything. But the reason why I went from 0 to 10,000 subs was I started talking about what was going on. I started talking about the germ versus terrain theory. I started calling BS on the efficacy of these masks, and what they were doing was a medical intervention. So I give that to you to say something that you probably know very well is when the YouTube CENSORS decide that you're saying the wrong thing that swims upstream against the narrative, they do what? Strike 1, strike 2, ban you. So I decided I was going to be ornery and say, okay, everyone, I have already created Uncle Odd 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sign up to all of them. And so what would happen is I'd get banned and I'd pop up like a whack-a-mole, and everybody knew just go to 2, go to 3. But what happens every time you do that, 10,000 goes down to 3,000, goes down to 750, goes down to, by the end of the year, I was just absolutely exhausted. I didn't want to launch Uncle Odd 7. So I ended up getting into crypto January the following year. And I'm like, cool, they'll let me talk about crypto. So I wanted to start a channel that was just, I'm a crypto newbie, and my channel is just following my journey into crypto. Cool. I like talking on YouTube. And so I probably should have been talking to you when I had my Uncle Odd, 1 channel. So now we have to play a little bit different of a dance, and we have to be careful with what we say. But to the best of my ability, I would like to give you the floor to be able to let my audience know what it is that you do. I call you a white hat because every There you go. By the way, thank you for putting that wig on after you read that I said wear the white hat.
That's right.
I love that about you.
That's good.
But I would like to you're the kind of guy that isn't afraid of a fight or drama or taking a stance. And what I love about you is you're the guy that says, no, you move. And I love that, man. So please I'm going to do a screen share and just take everybody to your website just so that they can see it. And then if you would kindly, let's see if you would kindly just go ahead and
Sure.
give us a backstory. I'm sorry for that long introduction, but I wanted to provide that little bit of backstory.
Sure. Well, you're very kind. And I just wanted to just set for the record that this is, although you feel like I'm taking a stand and all that stuff, none of that energy is what I do. Okay.
Love it.
Obviously, people have to decide for themselves whether they're going to be courageous or not. And most of the people that begin any of these processes have that fear in them, because that's the purpose of government schools, is to indoctrinate people into the idea that you're going to do something wrong. That's a common energy. Most of the time when a client will come along and say, that kind of language, I'm taking a fight, a stand, all that stuff.
Right.
I just said, I just talked to a client yesterday that were saying, talking about a fight. And I'm saying, well, just get that out of your system, because I don't look for a fight. We're going to do this process. It's not a fight. So stop that energy.
Okay. I love that.
If you're looking for a fight, I can promise you a fight, but why would you want to have that energy?
That's great.
The way that we function, or I choose to function, is everything in the light, everything out in the open. That's the safest place to be.
Awesome.
This is not a process where you're going to behave like a runaway slave. It's much better to just leave the plantation than it is to that you're going to have to escape the master. That's not what we're doing here. And so this is congruent with federal tax law. It's not at enmity with that. A lot of people in the tax honesty movement, or in anything with respect to taxes, they have a feeling that the income tax is unconstitutional. It is not. It is absolutely constitutional. They feel that they have these beliefs about the process, and it's just not based on logic or reason. Okay. It's not, and it's certainly not based on the tax code. Everything that I'm telling you is based on the tax code. It's not at cross purposes with it. Most people just don't know who has an obligation to file or pay income taxes. And I just want to state for the record that, and I've always, we teach this in our classes that are online, is that all US citizens, regardless of where they live, and resident aliens have an income tax liability, and therefore have a requirement to file and pay income taxes. And that is constitutional. And in our class, State versus Federal Citizen, the unknown choice, I'll show you how the income tax is absolutely constitutional, and why. And this is what the IRS has been doing for years. And it was I started this journey back in the 90s, about mid 90s. And I was a part of the tax honesty movement when Bob Schultz was doing We the People, and I was a state coordinator for We the People, and we went to Washington, we demonstrated, we dressed up like V, we did all that stuff, because We the People was challenging the income tax and felt that it was being applied improperly. Now, I was involved with all that, but I had begun my journey before I was involved with that, and I was already dealing with IRS and paperwork before I was part of We the People and did all that. And it was a great experience. I got to meet, John Turner, Joe Bannister, Sherry Jackson, all those people that were part of that Truth and Taxation hearing and such. That I got to meet Ed Griffin, and now Ed Griffin's a great guy, and I'm acting president of Freedom Force International in New Hampshire, and so been involved with a lot of that stuff over the years. I was part of the community of people that were involved with Ed and Elaine Brown when they were doing their tax stand in New Hampshire and went to prison and all that stuff. I've known people in the tax movement, pretty much. I'm just saying there are a lot of people that have gone to prison with respect to this subject matter. And
Yeah.
the reason they go to prison is because they do not understand federal jurisdiction. And that's the problem.
Okay. Understood. So I understand though, and I know the wording is very, very important here,
Sure.
but there is a way that Americans can eliminate their income tax, correct?
Liability.
Income tax liability.
See, this is not, when we talk about dealing with this, we're not talking about I'm not paying taxes and all that. That's all the conversation about evasion.
Yeah.
And that's not this. If you have eliminated income tax liability, then you don't have a liability. It's not about what you're making or not making. It's not like a lot of people come to the table saying, I don't want to pay taxes. It's not about any of that. It's about being truthful. Everybody that fills out tax forms, all of them are signed and filled out under penalty of perjury. The IRS is just going by your testimony, not their testimony. They're basing everything that they've done with you based upon your filling out documents. And that's and one of the things that we do is, or at least the journey that I was on was back in 2001. I was going to travel to Romania for some church event, and I needed a passport. Now, I was already communicating with the IRS in the 90s that I wasn't a federal citizen and that I didn't have an income tax liability. So when I was doing my passport, I didn't want to fill out my passport as a federal citizen. And applications for passports are designed and are for federal citizens. So I had done mine in a different way. And so, just because I wanted everything to be congruent, that's what I had done. When the Browns were doing their trial in 2004, or somewhere in that time frame, I saw the IRS prosecutor in the courtroom use the Browns' passport application against them, establishing their federal citizenship. And so, because you sign on your application under penalty of perjury that you are a U.S. citizen or U.S. national. And so the idea is so I knew that we couldn't agree to that oath, and therefore we had to make those changes. And so I had an explanatory statement that explained that I wasn't a federal citizen. And a federal citizen, when I say that, we have evidence from the State Department of the United States that the federal government defines U.S. citizen by the 14th Amendment. And how do I know that? Because it's on their letterhead. They've written that again and again, that's how they define U.S. citizenship. Now, there were United States citizens before the 14th Amendment. Okay, there were citizens of the states. How do I know that? Because the Constitution, Article 4, Section 2 says the citizens of the state are entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens of the several states. So that's a United States citizen before the 14th Amendment. And it's not an unknown thing. And then there are also federal court cases that disclose that there are citizens of a state and citizens of the United States or the District of Columbia. And so the idea that there are these two types of citizens, two classes of citizens, and it's a reality. And we know that because we have evidence to back that up and support that. So in what we do, one of the reasons that we began to do the passport process as a part of communicating with IRS that there was a change in our communication was because of what we saw at the Browns court case. And so that we recognized that IRS would use passport applications to against people establishing their federal citizenship, because we sign passports under penalty of perjury as true and correct.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Sorry to interrupt, but
no, just
okay. my audience knows I interrupt a lot because I'm a newbie, and if something goes over my head, it's just I find it hard to grasp later. But if we could just back the bus up. Sure. So I have a passport. I pay taxes, so it's like I've already signed everything that would perjure myself with you, which I presume would make me a federal,
That's how the federal government looks at you as
yeah,
a federal citizen, because that's
right.
your testimony.
So
So
there could be somebody like me
Mhm.
who wishes to change that.
Correct.
And you're saying that it's not too late because I've already
No,
sold my soul to the devil by signing the passport and
no, you didn't sign your soul to the devil. And I know that's how it feels, but none of that is really playing out. All you did was, let me ask you, had anybody up until that point or up until today, has anyone ever asked you, hey, would you like to be a federal citizen or a citizen of your state, which is based on habitation and domicile? Which would you, you don't get that choice.
never.
Everybody's just going along the usual way. But if you look at the history between the Civil War and these first federal citizens, which were the blacks, listen, when England and the United Kingdom got rid of slavery, they didn't have to create a second class citizen in order to do that. But they just recognized that people were people, and then we move on, and people have rights. It was in America's history where they created this second class citizen subject to the jurisdiction thereof that you began to see the federal government encroach upon and taxing and regulating their citizen. It's a statutory citizen created by law, and the Congress doesn't guarantee their rights. It guarantees privileges and immunities the same way that a corporation would be given privileges and immunities. It's taxed and regulated because it's in that jurisdiction, that 10 square miles, what we call the District of Columbia.
Okay.
So then it moves forward. So people like you or someone who's filled out a passport already, all we do is we have an explanatory statement like we do for first time, as well as for someone who already has a passport. And we just let the State Department know under penalty of perjury that you are correcting previous errors on your application. And that's the simplicity of it. If you were given a passport and there were errors on your passport, there is a form and a procedure to correct the errors on the passport itself. It's not usual that people will say, oh, I made mistakes on my application, I'm going to correct those errors. And so they don't have a provision for that. But with our explanatory statement, we let the State Department know that the previous application was filed in error. And so we correct those errors on a number of levels: your nationality, your citizenship, among other things. There's some other particulars that we do. And so you're establishing that you don't live or work in the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., and that you're not a citizen, a 14th Amendment federal citizen. And that's the simplicity of what we do for people who have passports. And we've done that for people, I'm sure, in every state of the union, including consulates around the world. We have clients that are all over the world that have done these processes so that it will eliminate their income tax liability. We're not saying that the income tax isn't valid.
So then what happens? Let's say I go through the process. And
they'll issue you a new passport.
Knowing myself, I will.
Okay. And so they'll issue you a new passport. They'll send you the old one back with holes in it. And then at that point, what we do now, since 2014, when we recognized, or that's the people that were there, our friends in New Hampshire, who recognized that the IRS was using passports against people, we decided at that point that we would do a FOIA request to the State Department for the passport file. So the completion of our process is not only doing the passport with correct information about your citizenship and nationality, but we also will do a FOIA request to the State Department so we can get certified copies of your passport file. That's what we would use in court if we were ever in court with IRS. Now, the IRS, just this is an important part of what I want to say. Okay. Now IRS already has established that to claim that you're not a federal citizen, that you're a state citizen, is frivolous. And courts have already determined that it's frivolous. And the reason they say it's frivolous is because people don't provide facts or evidence or information to establish that sentiment. They recognize it as a belief system. I've read IRS prosecution for that, but they provided no evidence to support their claim. We have evidence to support that claim. And so that's the game changer. I have never seen, since I've been doing this, been involved with this since the 90s, I've never seen somebody present evidence using certified documents from the State Department as evidence to establish that they are not a federal 14th Amendment citizen.
So you go through this process. Do you live in fear that somebody's going to be tapping you on the shoulder? You know, I mean, how many people who go through the process end up getting nasty letters from the IRS?
Most people that have nasty letters usually have pre-existing nasty letters that we have to change whatever it is they've been doing for whatever reason they're doing. And we've done passport processes with people that have owed a number of, over the years. And it was in 2015 that Congress passed the FAST Act. And so in 32-101 of the FAST Act, it began a process to where if you had a tax liability of $50,000 or more, and that they had a lien and such, that they could block your passport. Now, some of that pre-existing stuff was coming to the table as well. But anybody who's begun our processes that we're not having problems with the IRS, nobody that I've been involved with has had IRS problems after it if they stay out of and don't sign paperwork that brings them back into federal jurisdiction.
Okay.
So we've had no one up to this point. We have no one that that have done the work that we've done has been in court with IRS.
So
it's too easy to govern yourself in a way that doesn't create an income tax liability for you.
That's amazing. So I have a day job and I'm a W-2 employee. So what then do I say to my employer?
You will not take a tax stand while being employed by an employer. You will not do that. I mean, you won't take a tax stand. You'll have to choose a tax stand, meaning you will not come out of the federal zone while being an employee. It will never happen. And so I'm just going to tell you now, that's not your future. Now, let me ask you this question.
Okay, I'm confused. I'm
going to bring clarity in a second here. Okay.
Okay.
Listen, what you do for your company, is it important?
Oh, yes, to me, absolutely.
It doesn't matter if it's important to you. Of course, your job's important to you. I'm wondering, does the employer value what you bring to the table?
Yes.
Okay, then you can contract with the company and you're not going to do employment. You're going to close out your employment and your new relationship is going to be one as a contractor. And then you can move forward with this, because here's what's not going to happen. First of all, you'll never be an employee without filling out a W-2 form. You will not. They won't do that. They're not going to take your tax stand with you. They're just not going to open themselves up to an audit. It's an unreasonable expectation on a corporation.
Okay, then that leads me to another question then.
Sure.
Let's just say that I want to buy a house. And you go to the bank for a mortgage and they say, well, we need your last 2 years W-2 or your tax statements. What do?
If you don't have an income tax liability, and I've been in that place before, you just contact the bank, say, how you doing? This is so-and-so. Yeah, can I get last 3 years gross deposits in my account? All right, thank you. On letterhead. Thank you. That's it. That's all they need. They're looking for income. When on the bank letterhead, when they say here are deposits annually for last 3 years, you're all set. That's money. That's gross income. And I mean, you could, of course, share with them net, which means all your expenses, but they're looking for gross income. And the reason that they're doing that is because they ask for tax returns because it's easy, because they know that people signing things under penalty of perjury is great. But your third party is your bank. Let your bank tell you how much went through your bank account.
I see. Okay, so you basically.
But let's back up a little bit too. It would be my hope that you and I or others that are listening to this aren't going to be borrowing from banks. And certainly that's not going to be happening soon. So it's much better to pull out of the federal zone, of course. And if you want to borrow money, well, then borrow from the crypto community, because
Right.
there are plenty of people that are well established in the crypto community that would be interested in buying your house. And in about 20 minutes, you know, houses are going to be sold for cryptocurrency, which we know they already are. And
Yeah.
banks are going to, so if, and listen, this is not a buyer's market right now. Okay. So if we're not preparing for not only and listen, tomorrow, if we were going to have this conversation tomorrow, all right, today's Super Bowl Sunday, tomorrow, an unscheduled meeting with the Federal Reserve, and they're going to talk about where they're at with respect to interest rates. So tomorrow is going to be a brand new day with respect to banking and all the stuff going
Yeah.
on. It's going to be a shitstorm, but shitstorm was coming. And
Yeah.
so the idea is I want people to get out of this mindset, like I've got to go and get into more debt. One of the things we make available for our clients is discharging debt. We do a process with that. It's not A for V or any of that, but it is very simple based on the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act to eliminate all of your credit card debt and all that immediately. So it's a process that we make available for people. And of course, those of us that are in the crypto space, we believe that people should not finance their future. We think that you should be solvent. And of course, cryptocurrency will do that.
Well, I told you pregame that I want to talk to you and your wife about Epic Cash, because one thing that is being built in our ecosystem is it's called the Bank of One, where you'd be able to stake your core Epic Cash asset and borrow against it, so you don't ever have to sell the asset.
Correct.
And it's an amazing. So yes, I'm with you.
No
100%.
bankers.
No
Correct.
bankers.
Correct.
Yeah, it's the Bank of One. You are your own bank, and
Correct.
it's all done legally. And when you off ramp, it's like getting a home equity loan, except against your crypto. So
Sure.
my question back to my job.
So yeah, I want to address your job.
I come out of W-2 land. Does that mean I'm a 1099 person? Because they would.
Well, you're dedicated to want to be in the federal zone, huh?
Well, no,
you're like, oh, I'm a 1099. It's like,
no, I want to.
No. I'm just saying, it's like you contract with them, and so you'll be responsible for any taxes that you have, if any. It's not their responsibility. Now they will give you a W-9, which is a request for tax ID number. Now for our clients and such, and for state citizens, we have a W-9 that we don't provide tax ID number or social to your contracting company. We show on the W-9 that you're exempt, and then we provide a W-8, which is a certificate of foreign status. And you're foreign to the District of Columbia, not foreign to America. Okay. Anybody who thinks America is a country might think that Europe's a country. Okay. And they might not be aware that America is a confederation of states. Okay, these states are countries. Okay, and we talk about that in my class. But the idea is that you would be foreign to the District of Columbia. That's what you're certifying under penalty of perjury. And so there is no, and so when you give them your W-9, they can either report if they feel like they want to do that, or there is no obligation for them to report. We've had clients where I've talked to accountants where they've said, well, geez, we do everything online. So if we don't have a W-9 for you with tax numbers, then I'm not going to do one for you. I'm like, that is the correct answer. Oh. But whether they do or whether they don't, send in that informational return, that 1099, that has nothing to do with you, because their 1099, they sign under penalty of perjury. That's not your sentiment. And it's less important that they have the Social Security number, because that number isn't yours either. It's the Social Security Administration's number. Okay, so that number isn't yours, but if they had the number, they may report or not. It doesn't create the tax liability for you. Okay, that brings up a good point. So I'm 57. I've been paying into Social Security for a long time. Do you feel secure? No. So if you take this position, right, if you get out, you're basically abandoning that too, right? No, again, is there something there that you can abandon? I don't know. Is there money? Does the feds have money? Probably not. What do you mean? No, you're not kidding, are you? I mean, the feds are how about more than $23 trillion in debt? They don't have a nickel.
Yeah, they don't have
Anybody looking to DC for your future, well,
Yeah.
maybe these remedies won't work for you because you haven't grown up yet. You still like mom's nipple. Okay. So,
Yeah.
and so when you grow up, you'll have to be responsible for your future. I recommend getting into the crypto you recommend, or
Yeah.
other privacy coins or things that will secure your future right now.
Which,
And
by
so
the way,
right.
Epic Cash is the privacy coin.
Okay.
And
That's cool.
And I'm going to talk to your wife about.
No, I know. I think that's great. And so the idea is that, so let's talk about Social Security.
Yeah.
Now, can you if you do these things and you don't interrupt the Social Security check coming or whatever, the breakdown in that is income from the District of Columbia. It's taxable. Okay. And even though you paid in or not, here's the reality. Most people have never read the Social Security Act, but here's what it is. They think they owe me and all that. They have a righteous indignation for nothing. Okay.
Wow.
You were dealt into a dishonest card game and you lost, and you're just still wanting to get your winnings somehow. It doesn't work that way. Read the Social Security Act. It always was an income tax, and it is senior welfare. So you're on welfare. There was not whether there was or not, there's no trust fund. It isn't sitting there growing.
Yeah.
All that's fantasy. I deserve my nipple and I want my nipple. But when you're talking jurisdiction, IRS will take that money. They'll one hand of the government, will give it to the other hand of the government. So, and they won't take it all because they like you to be dependent on them, but they'll take it all or a little bit or whatever. If you want to keep it clean with respect to jurisdiction, I don't recommend receiving Social Security.
Okay.
That's all. If you want to maintain it, but if you're going to receive it, that will be the place. Now, if you ever heard of Irwin Schiff?
I have.
Well, have you ever heard of Peter Schiff?
Yeah, Peter, of course.
That's his dad.
Okay.
His dad died in prison because the IRS was taking, he was pissed that the IRS was taking his Social Security.
Yeah.
He was in prison because he was on federal welfare and he didn't like to pay the taxes. On one side, he's a federal citizen. On the other side, he's just pissed. He was a disgruntled slave.
Okay.
Sad to say. And I like Irwin Schiff because I met him in Washington. He was a fireball. So, but the sad thing again, I was like, how did he go in? I looked at what he's doing. He's looking for the federal government to give him his future because he paid in. That's not a jurisdiction. If you're talking money with the IRS, you are not having a jurisdictional conversation.
Okay. Well, here's what I like so far. I love your passion and I love your resolve. And I think you don't arrive at that level of confidence that you have without a strong track record. I think you can say that people who have gone through your process, they are not looking over their shoulders, right?
No, the idea of doing what we're doing is so that you can have peace, so that you can spend the majority of your time in your pursuit of happiness. Now, there's some work to stay out because you're constantly being invited into the federal zone all the time.
Now, if you get a driver's license, does that bring you in?
Do they ask on the driver's license, are you a United States citizen?
I believe
they do.
So.
Oh, yes. So let me ask you, are you a United States citizen?
Not after this call, this Zoom call.
Oh, well, here, let me help you out here. I am a United States citizen and I'm not a United States citizen. Both those statements are true.
Okay.
So what's the deal?
What is the deal?
Well, what's the definition of the term United States there? So listen, if in the tax code in section 7701 of the tax code, it defines the term United States, it's in 7701(9) as the District of Columbia. And there's other places in the tax code as well. 3121 also defines the term United States and state as the District of Columbia. So let me ask you a question. If the IRS was asking you, do you live in the United States?
No.
What would be your answer? Well, they're asking, do you live in the District of Columbia? The answer is no. But if you filled out on your driver's license, yes, or jury duty, or your voting registration, and you didn't ask the state or the court or the DMV how they define the term United States, then you don't know. So the answer isn't no. The answer is, I don't know what you mean. You have to tell me. And so what part of our process, what we call an alignment workshop, when people do the passport process, then all of a sudden they're renewing driver's license. We have explanatory statements that go there, explanatory statements go on the
Ah,
registration. So we want it to be the truth. And so that's all. And it's a pretty simple thing. So the idea is that you want to just be clear. If you're a citizen of one of the states, you're a United States citizen.
okay.
Okay. And the term United States is not the same as the term United States of America. Those are not the same thing.
Hmm?
We used to actually edit the oath, and we would write United States of America, blah, blah, blah. And the State Department, their attorneys wrote back and said, you can't change United States of America. It's unacceptable. They're not the same thing. So the Hooven case of 1945 had defined the key term United States to have a number of meanings. And so therefore we put that Supreme Court case record in there as well. So the idea is that you want it to be true. And so again, when we do these driver's license processes, we can also do a state kind of FOIA request. That FOIA is for federal, but you
Yeah.
know, an informational and get that information. We would use it as evidence. So basically, the whole gig for what we do is help people have evidence that establishes that they're not a federal 14th Amendment citizen subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Okay. Then are there any issues after that process of opening up any bank accounts where they ask you for all this information and
Sure.
or opening up a Coinbase?
Sure, all of that. Every one of those situations is challenging because the IRS serves the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the IRS is collection for Federal Reserve. How do we know this? The Grace Commission, that was during the Reagan administration, the Grace Commission did a study on government waste. And they found that none of the income tax goes to run the government. It goes to interest payments and transfer payments on the debt. That's what so when I found that out, that my income tax was going to the bankers, I was all set. Didn't need you. I was okay that would be the hill I die on, because those bastards weren't going to get a nickel from me, because they're all about human trafficking, war, all that. They can go fuck themselves, because I wasn't going to give them a nickel. So this was a much easier way, a kinder, gentler way, is just to tell the truth in paperwork.
Yeah.
It's non-violent. It's just you're declaring what's true for you. And that's the way people fill out their tax forms, what's true for them. Tell me when you sign a 1040 that you know what's true, correct, or complete. I just asked someone, you ever been trained in IRS tax code? No? Then how the hell do you know if it's true, correct, or complete? You're going to fill it out and they're going to tell you whether it's true, correct, and complete. But the reason that they do that is that they want you to have that statement under penalty of perjury.
I'm going to throw you a curveball here.
Okay. I'm sure this will be new.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
Okay.
Not, but I want to speak it out into the universe. Okay,
that's cool.
Work for a company that, you know, we have 22 different portfolio companies, and part of the you know, the engagement, if you will, just in my current day job, right, is part of what keeps me there is PIs, profit interest, shares, right? Options, stock options, if you will.
Well, before we go there, I will come back to answer your question about the banking account. So,
okay.
Go ahead and finish that, because I didn't want to miss that for people who are waiting to find out what do we do with bank accounts.
You know, why don't you finish that? I'm sorry, because
no, it's okay, because I was, you know, I digressed into talking about that. Normally, if you have a personal bank account that has a social security number, great. I wouldn't mess with it. It's like asbestos. You've made these agreements, but in the passport process, we have a rescission of signatures and things like that. If I came to this information new, and I did back in the 90s, I would make sure my bank had a proper W-8 and a W-9, because if you opened a bank account, you probably filled out a W-9, which was saying that you had an income tax liability and that they were going to disclose and things like that. So you want to make sure that your paperwork is correct. Okay. If you have a bank account with a tax ID number, then that has to go. All corporate stuff has to go. Everything corporate has to go. Why? Because you're saying, hey, I've got a great business idea. Hey, I have a great charity. How can I do it with the District of Columbia? Because I want to do my business with pedophiles. And so therefore, let me get a tax pedophile number so that I can pay taxes and I can report and all that stuff. I mean, that's what we're doing. There's no need to get a tax ID number. Oh, wait a minute, my charity, I want people to be able to write it off. Look what you're doing. You have this thing that might be very godly, and you're saying, well, I'm doing this thing that the creator wants me to do, but I want to make sure everybody gets tax write-off so that they can help me. They're not helping you. They're getting a tax write-off. That's what they're getting. They're not giving. It's all screwed up. So the idea is that we pull out of all the corporate crap, and tell me that corporations aren't a huge problem in our world. But the idea is you're going to do business in your private capacity as you. And that's the beauty of it. So with respect to the bank account, if you have one, that's great. If you're going to get one, it's going to be very challenging. And it's not impossible, but it's rare that you're going to set up a bank account without a tax ID. So the idea is to have your Social Security as that number is better than certainly a tax ID, because if you have a tax ID number that's given to you by the IRS, you're saying that you're doing a trade or business in the United States, District of Columbia. Okay, that's what the tax code says. The term trade or business in section 7701 is the function of a public office. Look it up. 7701, Title 26, 7701. Trade or business means the functions of a public office. Now, if that's not what you're doing, then don't call yourself a trade or business, and certainly not in the District of Columbia. So the idea is they're telling you what these terms mean. You're agreeing to it if that's what you're doing. So therefore, you're going to want to just stay in the private, and that'll work out best. We do that with respect to our trusts as well.
Okay, cool. So
hopefully it makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
So anyway, you were getting back to what, the things that you're involved with.
Like the profit interest or stock options. It's so that then when there's an exit, or if they, sell the company or whatever, then that's where you get an exit or you get a payout or whatever. And so if you there's one that I've had options in for years and years, and it's like, every year I have to fill out this K1, and I'm at the point right now saying, I don't think this sucker's ever going to come in. And it's just like ridiculous after a while. But if it did, is there anything in your process to where I could still participate in that, or like communicate to them and say, hey, time out. I just want to let you know, I made some errors in my signatures or signings or whatever, to where I could still be eligible for that? Or is this one of those, if you're going to get off the tit, you're going to get off the tee?
Well, the idea is all that is corporate. All of that is in that place. And of course, you wouldn't set up an account unless they gave you a W-9. They have, or they think they have, they really don't, but they have obligations, they believe, to report. And therefore, they asked you, give us your tax number. If you gave out tax numbers, then you filled out forms improperly. That's just the reality. If you were at the beginning of that place and they were going to say, we need this, then we have a W-8 and W-9 that will keep you exempt in that situation. And of course, they may still report. And of course, they want to write off what they pay out. It's understandable. But the idea is that doesn't create a tax liability for you. And here's the thing. Most people are not that do what we do are not having problems with IRS. That's easy. We're just going to be truthful. They have problems with third parties that think they're in the District of Columbia. They don't look up the terms. They don't know. And whether they're an accountant, a tax attorney, they don't know. Tax attorneys know about federal jurisdiction as much as doctors know about how the human body works.
Right.
None.
They are just spoon.
And why does a tax attorney not understand jurisdiction? Because they're not taught jurisdiction. Just like doctors are not taught about nutrition and the value and the immune system and how it works.
Right.
Just like the minister might know all the commentaries and what people tell him about scripture or whatever it is, but he may or may not have an actual relationship with Jesus Christ or with God. So the idea, the experts aren't exactly experts. And today, including attorneys, today people give up their self-government, they don't hold truth to be self-evident.
Right.
Oh, wait, I got to determine the truth on it. Let me call my attorney. Do you know what truth is? Because I have no clue what it is. And I'm saying, take back your power and you can know truth. Truth is easy to be entreated. Truth is so easy, children can understand it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
confusion. Scripture says that where there's confusion, there's every evil work. I wonder if there's any confusion in the tax code.
Yeah. No,
Hey,
no,
look,
no.
it's a good system. And as George Carlin says, it's a big club and you ain't in it.
Ain't in it, baby. And you ain't in it. Well, the one place that I know that I can find truth is when I turn on my television, because, you know, they're all so consistent in what they're saying. I don't care.
Again and again.
I turn to, it's almost like they have the same sentences, like literally the same.
Literally, exactly.
You know, no matter what segment.
What's up with that?
I don't know. It's almost like they're given a script, and they're not.
They are. They have to be. It's not magical. Of course, they're given a script because they're just talking heads. The thing that I find is that, but you know, we have Netflix or we'll watch films, and of course we have all of our YouTube sources or you know, other sources, alternative news and stuff like that, going to people who typically I trust sources that don't trust government. That's pretty general about what it is.
Yeah.
So you know, you've been to hotels and stuff. I can't even watch TV these days.
Oh, not at all.
It's so filled with, you get this much of a program and this much of advertisements, like, good God.
Pharmaceutical
Attorneys and car companies. Is there another kind of commercial?
I don't think so. No, and it's amazing how when you watch, you know, Netflix, peace be upon them. I think that's what most people go in through their heads. Yeah, that Netflix. When instead of leaning back in their recliner, I swear, I think everybody kneels to the altar of Netflix.
Something.
As long as they have their Cheetos in their underwear and their box of pizza next to them with their big 2-liter Coke, they're good, man. Just turn on the TV, but it's amazing. Yeah. It's like I will watch Netflix, but I watch it with a different lens, because I'm like, what kind of pre-programming? Because they're actually pretty good at it, you know? And it's like, I auto hoax everything that comes through the TV. Right. It really helps me establish truth, because if you turn on CNN or Fox News or anything,
all of it,
whatever they're saying, if you flip it 180, that is probably 90% likely the truth. Full stop.
No, that's how you know. By the title of a bill in Congress, you'll know it's the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
The USA Patriot Act, of which there's none. You know, I mean, like, name every one of them must have a committee of, okay, what are we doing? Okay, let's do the opposite universe. Let's come up with the opposite. It's the opposite of whatever it is we're doing. The privacy. If the Congress was passing a privacy act, it would be violating you.
Yeah. So,
crazy.
All right, let's pivot. Let's shift gears here. I want to engage you. What is that process? And if you don't mind sharing, I mean, what is the cost? I know that you can, and if you'd like me to, I can share my screen and go to your website, or you can share your screen.
It's okay. Let me see. I don't know which. Well, I can talk about it, but people can go there. We don't have to. Okay. So I won't navigate the website for people, but if people go to destinationfreedom.org,
okay,
on that website, there's a number of tabs, and if people, they can, there'll be a pop-up. They can provide their email address if they want to be up on our calls. Now, right now, I'm finishing up my term as selectman in my town.
You're what? I'm sorry, I missed that.
I'm a selectman in my town. I'm part of my town government.
Okay.
I got elected to office.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm normally I have a conference call every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and so oh, by the way, the website should be doing fine. My web developer has been making some protocol changes on the website. So this
Okay.
weekend, so hopefully we won't have any glitches for anybody. But the idea is that we talk about one of the first things that people will usually do is go up to our classes and workshops up there in the middle. And
Your guy definitely has to change this sentence. It needs to have and epic cache, but we'll talk about that later.
We'll make sure we come up to speed. We will. Those are just some of the major cryptos that we've taken. But anyway, we have a state citizenship class. And in order to do our passport process, people have to take the state citizenship class. It's a 3-hour class. Now, if someone, let me just say like this, it's a $300 class. It's a 6 to 7 hour class,
Okay.
and it's recorded. So you can take that class anyway. We used to do that
So
once a month
on your own
time frame.
On your own time. Okay.
Yeah. So once you take that class, then you'll qualify for the passport workshop.
Okay.
And so the passport workshop is also $300, and that shows you how to fill out your application, and we give you templates for your explanatory statement. And so whether you've naturalized into one of the states, or you are you live in a state citizen, you can do these passport process and pull out of that 14th Amendment citizen. If you live in the District of Columbia, you're not a state citizen, you'd have to move to one of the states. So we have classes that are available for people. And so it's pretty simple. If someone is uncomfortable and think that they want to do want some help doing the paperwork with the State Department, then for $1,500 they can have me come on, and I will we'll fill out their documents for them. We'll do a review by email, and then we'll mail to them in the mail their passport file and all that stuff, so that they can, and we'll give them the coaching of how to do go to the post office, and what to expect when you present your 10-page explanatory statement, and what to expect from the State Department. We don't provide social security numbers on the application. We provide them in the explanatory statement.
Question. So if it's a family, do you have a family discount? Because I presume I'd want my wife.
Sure.
I want my daughter.
Yep, we have significant family discounts for children, and for for spouse, because when we do the FOIA request, we can do it all at once. So there's a number of discounts that are available, and we'll do that as needed. We'll talk about that, and we'll set that up for the client.
For everybody that Oh, yeah, good. Well, I wasn't sharing the screen. For everybody that just saw me wince, I just tried to put a sticky on my computer. Let me put family discount. But have you ever had it where you like literally you're in good shape, you're healthy, everything is fine, but you wake up in the morning, you get out of bed, and it's like you just have a pinched nerve in your back or whatever that happened this morning. And so I've been just kind of like trying to relax all day. And I just literally went like this to the computer, and I'm like,
no, that's not good. No,
Yeah.
I used to, I had a high-rise window cleaning company. And so I cleaned glass for like 30 years. And so, yeah, back issues or something. And I'll tell you one thing, you got to walk them out, and you got to move a lot. That's going to be a solution to that, because obviously your muscles are going to support your system and all that. So I would definitely not sit still. I would definitely move a lot.
Okay. That's good counsel, because the way that I was starting to feel better was I went to the altar of Netflix recliner, and was just able to sit there and let things, because everything was just so grippingly tight.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that I found. I remember, for whatever it's worth, is it's like $49 or whatever. But if you go into the pharmacy, they have these little device that's electronic, that you can put these pads on your back right where your spine is, and you can turn that thing on, and it'll do a muscle massage on your back electrically, and
Wow.
and it'll take away the pain immediately. It's pretty amazing. So
definitely
it's like, check that out.
CVS, and you just
I was trying to think of what they are. They're it's called I can't think of what it is. It's like ups or tongue or whatever it is, but CVS has their own brand or whatever. They'll have
Okay.
their own brand,
No,
but it's
no,
an
no.
electronic device, and that is excellent. And those are good
Okay.
tools to use anyway. So
I,
well, I hope you feel better.
electronic device. Oh, I feel
It's going to
way
be in
better.
the muscle support type of stuff. It'll be a little device there, but it's electronic. It takes a 9-volt battery or something like that,
Okay,
and then
that's
it
cool.
works really well. I've had it's just been great. So,
So,
but
so
anyway, so getting back to
how long is the process then to go through it? And is it retroactive, like to the beginning of the year if you've been paying into the or does I guess that's sucking on the teat again, isn't it? I can't
It's like, I want my thing back. It's like, listen, when I found out I wasn't going to file and pay anymore, I was like, thank God. I was working for I was doing my own business. I wasn't employed anywhere. So I didn't have to cross that bridge. But I remember saying to my wife at the time, I said, do you want to keep receipts or write letters? And we decided to write letters. And listen, I don't have communication with the IRS anymore. At least that's what I tell myself. What happened was one day I'm out to the mailbox picking up a client's packet, because clients send me their IRS letters. So I think to myself, damn, I told myself I wasn't gonna deal with the IRS, and so I don't deal with the IRS for my own capacity. But so clients so I'm answering everybody's stuff. So I do nothing but answer IRS letters for people. So it's like, oh, that's it. But anyway, but the good thing about it is
white hats. You're the white hats. You're taking for the team.
But it is a joy to deal with that. And there was one time years ago, a friend of mine, was a friend and client, in which he had been doing some trading or whatever it was, and the IRS was alleging that he had a liability. And so initially he was going to dispute that he actually made income because of what the communication that IRS had received. And I told him, and he had done his passport process and he wasn't a federal citizen. And so he began to engage with the IRS on that subject matter. And I said, that is not the thing you want to do. I said, this is a jurisdiction. You don't have a liability. Therefore, that should be the ground for what you do. And so he began to do that. I remember when the IRS sent paperwork, they with respect to summons, there's no signatures on it, which is improper. We actually, in New Hampshire, had a constitutional sheriff. So we brought it to the sheriff's attention that the court was issuing improper summons. And so there were no signatures, no judges signing, no clerk was signing for them. And that was exciting because I remember being at the sheriff's office. I'm carrying another friend's carrying, the marshal's carrying, the sheriff's carrying, everybody's in the hallway there. And so the marshal's trying to deliver some paperwork. And I said, Sheriff, take a look at the paperwork. See, there's no signatures. And so the marshal was kind of, he didn't realize that there were no signatures on it. He calls back to his office. They say, just set it down at his feet. And so he sets it down at his feet. The sheriff picks it up, arrests the paperwork, and sends it back to the court.
Wow.
As improper. Now that was very exciting. Now, ultimately, so he didn't have to show up, and they were not. And so eventually, because they weren't going away, he showed up under duress. That's the way he chose to come in. And so they were dealing with their paperwork. And that first day that he was there, the IRS prosecutor tells the judge that he's having a difficult time overcoming the jurisdictional argument he was making. And the judge advised the IRS prosecutor that if he rules on the case, it wouldn't be in their favor. And he said that the best suggestion is to withdraw. And he withdrew it, and they sealed the case. So It's not in the public record. So the idea is that's, IRS never loses on the record. Wherever they lose, they usually will seal those, sometimes as a negotiation. But that was the only time that we ever dealt with IRS at that time. And even then, we didn't even have to show those certified documents. But all the clients that we've had over the last, I've been doing this, since I myself did my passport in 2001. So we're over 20 years at this. And so we've never been or dealt with IRS court. And the truth of the matter is, and in the state citizenship class, I'll explain how the IRS has jurisdiction for federal citizens and resident aliens. And if you're not a U.S. person or, you know, a U.S. federal citizen, then the federal government is not going to have jurisdiction. And again, the purpose of the passport process is to give you evidence and support so that you're not just saying, oh, I'm not in your jurisdiction and I'm making it up. We want facts and evidence. And these certified documents are actually wet ink signatures signed by the Secretary of the United States. So they're not just, you know, this isn't cookie cutter stuff. This is where we have evidence that we could use in a court of law if necessary. But again, over these years, we've not, it's very easy to stay out of court. Most of the time when people are in court is because they're filling out documents improperly.
You know, it's interesting. And I just want to create an analogy here because my heart breaks every time I go out in my neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood and I don't know why, but over the last 7 years since my wife and I have lived here, the neighborhood is pretty much pivoted to wherever there's a new home that goes up for sale, an Indian family buys it. Now, Indians make for wonderful neighbors, but they are so afraid of this boogie virus that not one of the kids play outside not fully masked up. It's like they're all fully masked up. And so I was on a walk the other day, took a little cigar walk, and I was observing that and seeing these kids that were just, I couldn't tell if they were laughing or not, but they were in the cul-de-sac, just riding their bikes and skateboards, black masks, look freaking miserable, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, okay, these kids, you know, their family, obviously they watch the news and they're being fed, they're being hypnotized by the TV.
Right.
And these kids are growing up fearing fresh air. They literally are, I mean, just think this through. They go to school, all they see are other kids in masks, right? And let's just do a thought experiment here and say that they go their entire life to where they end up going to college, they go get their master's, they go to their first jobs. Everyone's masked up. Let's just pretend, thought experiment, that this happens until they're the age of 57, which I am. Okay. Now, somebody actually like you comes on and says, bro, you can take that thing off and breathe fresh air. You know, you're not, there's no boogie virus that you can catch. You know, those masks, all they do is inhibit you from breathing God's free air. And you are really screwing up the environment because the deal the plants made with you is they'll give you oxygen, but you got to give them CO2 back. Right. And you're not, for all those years paying into Social Security, you know, I'm trying to draw an analogy, but you get to 57. And when somebody wakes you up and says, all those years you were wearing a mask, you didn't have to. As a matter of fact, that was really bad for you. But then you have somebody like me asking questions. Okay, what about X? I still wear a mask there, right?
No, it's exactly right. I mean, that's a very common thing for as people move down this path, they're constantly being invited into the federal zone, and many times people, unless they grow up, they will be still looking for permission. And so what I try to tell people is it's more important to understand principles of liberty and freedom than to understand law, statute, code, and all that, men's writing. And so therefore, there are groups out there on this subject matter, and they think that by studying the law, that's the way that you're going to do better or figure out, like as if this is, like as if I'm explaining to you a loophole. It's not that at all. I mean, because listen, you know exactly. Let's say Venezuela, and I shouldn't use Venezuela because they're using crypto. Let's say, you know, Romania, I'm making up any country, and it writes to you and they say, and they have your name and address, and they say, you've created a tax liability. You owe us $50,000. how are you going to respond to that kind of invitation? And matter of fact, how much they say this, you didn't fill out a return for us. We need your return. Like I'm talking Romania. Would you respond to a letter that comes in your mail like that?
I'd pull out 2 middle fingers and tear it up.
Okay. That's one way. So that's one way that people do handle tax stuff. It doesn't, in America, that doesn't go away. Okay. Just because you ignore something doesn't make it go away. Let me give you the reason for that. People can agree to things by acquiescence. Governments and corporations don't have that liability. A government and corporation will empower something by acknowledging it. Therefore, most of the remedies out there that people are doing, the government ignores them, and that's proper for them. And so it doesn't change anything for them. So people will do paperwork and it'll be a bit masturbatory. Feels good, produces nothing.
Okay.
So the idea is that, but if let's say you were going to take it now your response to, with respect to Romania looking for some money, is that you would ignore it or that you would rip it up or whatever. But let's say you took it seriously.
Okay.
What would you say, or how would, as anyone, how would you respond?
I would say I'm not a citizen of Romania.
Well, right. You would say, you would ask the question, how do I have a tax liability with you?
Yeah.
I'm not a Romanian and I've never been to Romania. I mean, that's what you would say, right?
Yes.
When the IRS asks you or wants you to file and stuff, they're saying the same thing.
Okay.
And the question is, how am I your federal citizen, or do I live or work in the District of Columbia? Because let me tell you how they have jurisdiction. I'm going to explain to you. We talk about this in greater length in the class. And people will think that, the income tax is unconstitutional. It's not, because I'm going to tell you. Now, many people know or believe that the 14th Amendment, which is the amendment to the Constitution that creates a federal citizen. Now, there's many of us that believe that that was never properly ratified. When the South was being invaded and the federal government was functioning outside of their jurisdiction, they were invading the South with respect to a lot of things, not just slavery. That was a catalyst, and of course, I believe that the southern states didn't have the moral high ground with respect to slavery. But if you look at a Southern history of the Civil War, you'll see that what people are taught in schools is not the same thing. And they were dealing with economics, just as if we were going to deal with slavery in China. We're going to deal with it from an economic standpoint as well as a human rights aspect. Okay. And so there was no need for the federal government to create a citizen, their own citizen, because the breakdown was that the states were determining who their citizens are, and that's well established. How does a state determine citizenship? Is by habitation domicile. Well, those blacks were already citizens of their states, but their state governments were not recognizing them as people. That was a breakdown for them, for the states. So with the federal government allegedly trying to pass the 14th Amendment, which creates a citizen subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, a citizen created by legislation, I mean, is that's a statutory citizen. Okay. The colonies had citizens that predated their governments. Before those states had constitutions, they had people and citizens. Okay, so the idea was that you look at the state constitutions, you won't see that there's been delegated authority to create citizens. But the federal government, even the federal government, doesn't have the authority to create a citizen. They did that with the 14th Amendment. And remember, the amendments are supposed to be ratified by the states. So in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution discloses the federal government's limited authority or power. Article 1, Section 8. Now, let me ask you this off-subject topic here.
Sure.
Does the word immigration show up in Article 1, Section 8? It does not.
Okay.
The states have not delegated to the federal government the power to immigrate. It's not in there.
Okay.
So let me ask this question. Does the federal government deal with immigration? Of course. So how are they dealing with immigration if it's not been delegated to them and they can't immigrate in the states? What are they doing? Well, listen to this. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution gives the power that's given to them in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, gives the federal government exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever in the District of Columbia, the 10 square miles. They don't have to abide by the Constitution in the District of Columbia, and they have exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever there. So when they create this federal citizen, that's a citizen subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now the federal government can tax and regulate their citizen that they created. Does that make sense?
Just sounds like a con from the beginning.
Well, of course, I mean, you can see how it phased in. They used to refer to Americans, people as Americans. They phased it out as they saw that the 14th Amendment was giving them power to tax and regulate their citizen. And so therefore, all they're offering that citizen is privileges and immunities, protections, and everything the federal government is all about, giving their citizens privileges and immunities in every category, all over. So therefore, we were rejecting that 14th Amendment federal citizen.
Okay.
So this is why, so is the income tax constitutional? Absolutely. They can tax and regulate their citizen in that jurisdiction.
I love that.
The question is, are you a federal citizen?
Right.
That's the question. And so that's why we do.
Ask me that in however many months this takes, and I'll say no.
Well, correct. And so the idea is that you were never afforded that question of whether you want to choose which citizen you'd like to be. The bottom line is, but here's the thing: citizenship in a state. Now you're in what state? You're in Florida. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what state were you born in Florida?
Kansas.
Okay. So at some point you moved to Florida.
Yes.
Now, so what happened was you left Kansas and you were a citizen of Kansas based on habitation domicile. You moved to Florida. You probably got a driver's license. You don't have a Kansas driver's license. You have one from Florida. If you were called to jury duty, you'd be in Florida. If you're going to vote, it would be in Florida. All those things are based in habitation and domicile. And that's how you become a citizen of a state, by habitation domicile. There's no form to fill out. You just move. And that's how citizenship works. It's a choice. Income tax is not a choice. Citizenship is a choice. Therefore, as the old knight said with Indiana Jones, choose wisely.
Right. One more curveball.
Yeah.
So not with you, but with a different, there's a tax specialist down here in Tampa who you probably are familiar with, that basically says that he can get you out of the system and all that stuff. So I was keen on doing that and really was going down that rabbit hole. And then my wife stopped me in my tracks because she's right in the middle. My wife is from Russia. She's now a U.S. citizen for 20 years, but wants to get her mother here. So going through that visa process, the government is requiring all of these documents. Is there a way that, like, her fear is, look, if we go down that path, we're putting a nail in the coffin of being able to have her mom immigrate over here.
Well, I mean, allegedly, I mean, that's the truth. And and I'm familiar with the immigration process, but again, you're choosing to immigrate. Everything you're doing there is this. Here's the presumption of that, all that paperwork. And if you would just stay on the terms of being truthful on all your paperwork, maybe, I doubt it, but maybe the federal government would do the process while you stay outside and stay with not being a federal citizen. Of course, what do they want to know on those forms? What's your tax forms say? Everything in that immigration process.
You want to know how much money you make.
Everything in that process is about money.
Yes. That's true.
I wonder if there's any corruption going on there.
Right.
I wonder. And listen, here's though it's so screwed up in it. Not only that, they're on one side of their mouth, they're saying, and so therefore you can't get on welfare. And if you are on welfare, we want you to agree as sponsor that you're going to pay for the taxes. We're going to be able to tax you for any of their care and all this stuff here. And so because they don't qualify for welfare. And here's the welfare. Oh, yeah, they do. They qualify. One side's, they definitely qualify. We don't want them to qualify, but they definitely qualify. It is completely fucked up.
Yeah.
But it's all about money.
My thought is just pivoting after this conversation is, you know what? Let's just figure a way to get her here on a visa
Mhm.
and just don't go back. I mean,
Well,
she's
you
80
might
years old,
consider,
crying out loud.
well, and we can talk later
Okay.
on the side, but the idea is that we are working in a number of states to naturalize and to do immigration in the
Oh,
states. Okay, so
oh,
the
that's
state
cool.
now, how successful? I mean, we're expecting to be successful
Yeah.
long term, but how knowledgeable are state politicians and government workers? How knowledgeable of this subject matter? They're not. All of them are filing and paying. They don't.
Yeah.
They're so conditioned to pay the pedophiles that to look outside, and they're so afraid that how likely is it that people are going to be knowledgeable enough? So we're having to do that heavy lifting so that we can begin naturalizing again back in the States.
Now your website is escapingpedos.com again. Is that right?
Well, that's a side site.
That redirects.
Okay. And listen, as part of enrolling people, it's like, so sometimes when I'm making reference to Washington, D.C., I'll make reference to pedophiles, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll be talking to class and I'll talk about, about the pedophiles. And then someone will say, Chris, you're not suggesting everybody in Washington's a pedophile, are you? I was like, well, yes, I am. Okay. That's where I'm going to be. Yes, everyone without exception is a pedophile or a pedophile sympathizer. Okay. Because give me a break. It's like, I mean, it's like, it's a stupid question because it's so bad. I mean, so let me ask you this: is like, I mean, if you ever watched the Netflix about what's his name, was the guy that didn't hang himself, Epstein. Yeah.
Epstein's
I mean, the
Island.
thing is that the bottom line is the FBI are pedophile protectors, and they took him and protected him and did what they did. The FBI protects pedophiles. So FBI's credibility, none. It's just dreadful. But the idea about that is that it's just wacky. And so, and the same thing is like, I cannot imagine if I was going to run for Congress, which I'm not. But if I was, here's my platform. I'm going to eliminate the NSA, the FBI, the CIA. That's my platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice
bullet hole in your skull.
But I mean, it's like, but then let's not pretend this is the land of the free and home of the brave.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend like we're not a communist country. It's bull crap. Yeah. And Americans are so duped. And, another thing about the masks, and I appreciate your mask, Dan. By the way, my wife and I, we never wore a mask ever. Yeah. Ever. We never put one on the whole time ever. Good. And so, I mean, I enjoyed our whole time. Listen, when they start doing lockdowns, we launched a dinner group. And so we were going out every week with our friends, and we were going out in everybody's house until restaurants started opening up. Then we started going to restaurants that were friendly. Perfect. We never wore masks ever. And so we never played that game.
Why do you think the narrative is all of a sudden changing? When you turn on the hypnotic TV, now the talking heads are all saying the same things, to where it's like they're doing about face on this.
Because election's coming up. The election's coming up. That's why.
Oh.
Yeah. So the whole idea is to get the election ready, because no one's going to elect their prisoners. So that's what's happening is election. Right after that, there'll be another thing. But it doesn't matter. But here's what I say. You can quote me on here. Okay. No one's rights are violated when you obey government. It's only when you disobey government that you're going to find out if your rights are going to be violated or not.
Right.
So the idea is disobey. I remember we did hotels and everything like that. We went up into Maine and went there, would never worn a mask. I remember checking in at the hotel, right? And they give you that sheet that says, have you been around anybody with COVID? Right. So I stood there and I'm like, how the hell do I know if I've been around anybody? And the lobby's full of people. I go, I don't know, maybe some people in here have COVID. I have no idea. Who the hell knows anything? So I wrote on the form, not trained in COVID. Don't hold the hotel liable for anything. I signed off on that.
Oh, I love
good
that.
luck. And then I go to get a corkscrew, for the wine bottle. And I go into the lobby and the guy says, sir, you have to have a mask. I was like, yeah, I need a corkscrew. I'll go back to my room. He's like, but you have to wear a mask. I said, what? He says, yeah, there's a mandate. And I said, well, you better call the police. Can I get the corkscrew? like, yep, here you go. Good luck. I went back. I told my wife that. She's like, you didn't tell him to call the police. I'm like, I gotta call the police. Can you imagine a hotel? Yeah, how can I screw up my life tonight? I'm gonna call the police on this.
Yeah,
No.
you better.
My favorite thing to do at the hotels is to go in, and they're all wearing masks and stuff. And I did this a number of times when we were driving out to Idaho. And I went in and they're like not serving breakfast, right? I'm coming in looking for breakfast. God, I hate it that they don't serve breakfast. So I go in and I went up to them and said, yeah, I'd like to get breakfast. He said, oh, you're not doing breakfast. I said, how come? He said, because of COVID. I said, COVID? What are you talking about? It's like, COVID, the virus. There's a virus? It's like, COVID-19. I'm like, well, when did that happen? So I just made like I have no clue what they're talking about. I was like, is there some? And I said, the last time I was on this planet, you guys didn't have any kind of breathing issues and stuff. God, it is so much fun just to make like you're a complete idiot. That's what's
my favorite one that I use all the time. Well, there were two. I would say it's okay. I'm with the control group. That was my go-to.
Oh, that
was my go-to. And they'd be just like,
what?
And the other one is, what? And deprive you of this smile?
That's a good one. Now, listen, we had an exemption tag that we used all the time, and it was very effective. I went into a Goodwill, and the guy says, oh, I could print one of those out online. And he went to get the manager, and the manager comes over and says, sir, you have to wear a mask. And it's like, yeah, I have an exemption here. And she's like, okay. I'm like, oh, yeah, there you go.
It's so funny. I have a legitimate exemption, and it was like when I went into here's what happened. Costco, they would honor my exemption until on Friday, the 13th of November of 2021.
Really?
The CEO published on their website that as of Monday, they would no longer be honoring medical exemptions. Now, the governor, medical exemptions. The mayor, medical exemptions. My county, medical exemption. I printed them all off, right? So how can the Costco, the head of a corporation somewhere, how can he ignore it just basically hand wave medical exemptions? So I went in on that Friday. And I went in and asked to see the manager. And I said, I am here because next week, I know this goes into effect on the 16th. Next week, I don't want to come in here and have an issue, sir. Or ma'am. It was a ma'am at first. Yep. And I said, so I want to show you all of my exemptions. And I want to show you how not honoring a mandate violates the law. And it escalated. She got another person. Now, I was recording it in my I had my phone pointing up at the ceiling, and it's so funny because when you look back at it, it's pointing up at the cameras that are also
right. They're recording you, and you're recording them.
So here's what happened. Yeah. I went in and I literally, because I had we had a big birthday party coming in. I probably $400 to $450 of groceries I bought. They had no idea who I was, right? I didn't give them my name. Well, I guess I did when I was showing them the medical exemption and all that. So I take that back. But anyway, because that day they still honored the exemptions and I could go in without a mask. Right. Once I got out, I knew I was going to come back the following week and I was just going to reference it, right? That I already went through this. Right. Well, on Tuesday morning, I got a Federal Express from their attorneys canceling my membership.
Wow.
And sending me a refund check for my Costco bucks, of which I never cashed because that would be a signed agreement, right? And so, I mean, they even go in on the 16th or after. So they proactively did it. And their reasoning was because they're a private club, and I can't film them because Florida is a two-party state. No, you're public access. If I wanted to go get a pharmacy, if I wanted to go pick up a drug, I don't have to be a Costco member. If I want to go in and buy liquor from Costco, I don't have to be a Costco member. Right. It's public access. And oh, by the way, you're filming me.
Right.
So anyway, that's
good. So are you litigating that?
Oh, I'm pro se, but I have a great team of support. But 3-count lawsuit. One, filing an injunction, so I can go back with the privilege of being able to shop there again, right?
Well, the question on that is like, does the Americans with Disabilities Act?
Oh,
I mean, their bathrooms are obviously a certain size to handle the Americans with Disability Act. And they would acknowledge that they have they're subject to that. Are they subject to OSHA? Of course, this is if they receive. Can you buy Costco stock?
Yes.
Yes, you're publicly traded. So there's no such thing as a private corporation.
No.
That's a misnomer. All corporations are public.
100%. And my suit did pivot to ADA. As you go through the motions to dismiss, and that just educates you on what I've learned a ton over the last year plus on this. But you'll like this. My third count is anti-bribery. Is because when you take a look, they have an anti-bribery policy that all of their employees, all of them, have to sign. What's the bribe? The bribe is from the government, that if you issue these mandates, so we will discover those when we get to, we really actually wanted to get to the appeals court so that we could then go to the next step, which is discovery. But it'll be really interesting to see where it goes.
This would be great to play out, because what it'll do is, this is some of the damage that government 19 has caused people. People want to say that a virus has caused problems. Well, it's not. It's, governments have frightened corporations, and corporations, because they worship the dollar, they're going to bow to dollars all day long. So it's pretty sad. And it's amazing that the big box stores had all kinds of access to people, and the little guys all had to shut up. That was
do you know what? The funniest thing, for those of you out there who actually believe in this boogie virus, is I have gone in from day one to the same public store. I go in and I see the same faces with the masks, and I go into this store, which I know that when people go, when they check their tomatoes and stuff, they're touching them and everything. And all of the employees, I have not seen one memorial to where any of the employees died from CV, what. Right. And so think about that. If this is that amazingly deadly, why there are two worlds. There's the world that when you turn on the TV tells you is happening, and there's the world in your own operating reality. Just use that as a gut check. How many people in all of the stores, grocery stores that you've attended, how many of those have a memorial up there in the corner saying, God bless Angela Smith, worked here from 2018 to 2021. May she RIP. It's not out there. It's not out there.
I mean, the bottom line is that from 2017 to the present, there's not been a spike in deaths in the world.
I know.
But let me tell you that those days are going to change, because we're going to see spikes with their remedy.
Okay. Yeah. We can't.
I know. I'm just saying. We're going to say that.
I know.
We're going to see that. That's going to still come.
No, but that's part of. But that's part of. I do have to give them, golf clap on their maniacal strategy here.
Well, if this was a test on how people did with respect to securing their freedoms, it's a pretty big fail. I mean, the fact that people, trust them. What was it? The other thing I was looking, there was some sort of thing on Facebook where they were talking about, um, you know, the question was still coming up. How can we trust DC on about this or that or whatever? It's like, listen, stop trusting these people at all. Listen, in which category are they telling the truth? What was it? Oh yeah, imagine if we had the politicians signing off under penalty of perjury that how they're going to be is true, correct, and complete. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
That, and how about, I mean, what's the consequences for not upholding the Constitution? There's no consequence to politicians for not upholding the Constitution or keeping government from violating the rights of the people. There's no
Zero.
consequence. And the other thing I say too is an amazing thing about anybody that's a Second Amendment person who wore a mask during all that time will never shoot anybody. That'll never happen. It'll never happen. Because listen, if the government's going to just tell you to cover your face and you're not going to resist do you really think that you're going to take a stand? That ain't going to happen.
You know what? That reminds me of a question that I was going to ask you earlier. Yeah. What percentage of the people? So what you're offering, the truth that you're proposing, and when people do the ROI, let me help you. If your income is north of $25,000 a year, let's say, if you go through this process and you decide you want to hit the easy button and it's $1,500 for you to go, and maybe it's a little more, but I don't know, but let's just call it the $1,500. Then that releasing you of your liability from what so think about your earnings and how much that 45% would be. It is a great ROI. So to me, it is like,
I agree. I mean, to me, it's like, it's a no brainer is that, but you'd be surprised that the more, wealthier some people are, the more entangled they are. And it requires them to work harder because they're tied into these systems. Sure.
Well, my question is this: of the people that become aware, I mean, and what I heard, you provided it to me, is there's an easy button with you because I really have zero interest of going in and figuring this out by myself. I want the easy button and am comfortable paying the easy button price. But the easier button is the person who listens to this, watches this, and just says, yeah, no, I like the teat. What percentage of people would you say fall into that bucket? And I would say that it's probably matches or exceeds those who wear one of these things. Sure.
I mean, I'm if you go with an 80-20 rule, I mean, I don't think that we're a large body of people, but I don't know how many over the last 20 years have done this. I know who my clients are. We've got hundreds and hundreds. I don't know, if we've hit 1,000 yet or some, but at least hundreds and hundreds over the last 20 years. Yeah. But then when I think about it, for my own self, I was doing my own business and I was paying in Social Security. I think I saw a number once of, I think there was like 82 grand or something with respect to what was in Social Security or something like that. And but the bottom line is, if you want to look at if you're a young person or even wherever you are, if you do the math, it's such a great, like you're saying, ROI, return on investment, is to not pay the 25 or 30%. I got a client that was from China that I asked him, I said, what's the reason is this a monetary thing? He says, oh no, it's pure karma. I don't want to be funding anything in that group of people. I don't want their bad karma in my life. And so that was what they're interested in. Now, this stuff is we're not talking about expatriating. That's expatriation. Expatriation is what they do or offer federal citizenships. It's like, do you want to buy your freedom from the feds? Yeah, there's a remedy for that. But most of the people, when they think that, they end up leaving America and then they become exiled.
Yes.
Now, you have a birthright being born in Kansas.
Yep.
You're a Kansian. Is that what they call them?
Kansas.
by Kansan by birth. That's
Yep.
your nationality. Okay.
Okay, that's cool.
On your passport, it says United States of America. There's no such nationality.
My mom was
Hmm.
Dorothy.
Yeah, it's from Kansas, right? Now, see, I'm a Pennsylvanian for birth. I was born in Philadelphia.
Okay,
And
Benjamin
I was,
Franklin.
and when I began, it wasn't until after I was doing classes, I was realized I'm born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. What an ironic place. And I actually, on my mother's side, I'm actually related to Ben Franklin as part of my family.
People will rewind after you said that. I said Ben Franklin.
I know, it's pretty wild. So it's really kind of wild. I'm like, this is why this stuff's in my blood. I feel a very big connection to that Declaration of Independence. And if you really want to understand what we're doing or what you're doing when you're doing this stuff, if you read the Declaration of Independence, it has the opening, their redress of grievances, and the close. It is probably the most profound document in the world right now that should be resonating on everybody's lips. It tells you about government.
Yeah.
Okay. And so therefore it's that too is a jurisdictional thing. And see, look, if you remember the opening of the Declaration of Independence, it starts off, it says, they're not even talking about themselves. It says, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political band which have connected them to another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. And so the idea of that is that's the same thing. I am done with them. I'm done with them. I don't want to be involved with that. Now, a lot of people think that they have a right to association. Okay. There's no such right to associate. Okay. The idea is when people think they have a right to associate, we usually get restraining orders on them.
Okay.
That's what we do with people except for governments. We don't get restraining orders on them. Right. But that's the truth. You can't leave the union. You have to stay with it. You vote to get in. You can't get in unless the Congress or the representatives of the other party say it's okay. The whole thing is by permission.
Yeah.
And yet leaving, that's where you are now trapped. Oh, that's kind of like the way Russia wants to be with what do you call it? Ukraine. I mean, you can't leave us like that. Or like any government that wants to say, you can't leave us. No, that's called, we get restraining orders with them. You have a right to disassociate with anyone you want. That's a right.
Okay.
In all of its facets. And that's the beauty of, and that's really what you want to do, is you want to be left alone. It's not like you want something. There are people that say, can I get what I paid in? I've seen remedies like that. I don't recommend that. I mean, what I recommend is the peaceful way of saying, I just want to be left alone. Thanks. Hey, you got me, but not anymore. That's it. I'm all done. And so it's much more peaceful to walk away and say, hey,
and guess what?
Good run. Yeah.
Guess what? I bet if you do the math and you think about that 30-40% that you save on an annual basis,
right?
And then you take a look at the compounding effect, especially if you invest that in cryptocurrency, the right one,
now, exactly.
Epic Cash, then you're talking about the amount that you would get out of the system is epic dust, if you will.
No, I agree. I think this is never in the history of the world, even when we look at the Great Depression, which they're projecting that what's going to happen in America will be worse than that. And looking at a model like Venezuela and stuff like that, never, because of the internet and because of cryptocurrency, never have people been so prepared to do so well. There's going to be an exchange of wealth, and you can be on the receiving end of that if you'll take action now. And this journey that I'm doing is a joy. And a lot of people that are well connected or have affluence, listen, we create trusts for clients so that you can move your asset into trust where you don't own it and you want to control it. And therefore, that's one of the ways to protect it from governments or litigation in that way is putting your property and your assets into trust. So those are I think services we provide for our clients as well.
That's good. I think I did do something right, and I'll follow up with you afterwards just on how these things work going forward. But you're familiar with the 575Es? out in California?
No, I don't think so.
I'll send you some information on it. But it is, it's not putting assets in trust, but it is, I'll share more with you
One of
about
the
it.
things, a lot of times people will have a trust, and a trust, if a trust has federal citizens as trustees, that trust will be in federal jurisdiction, or a
Mhm.
resident alien.
Yeah.
So if someone is a resident alien, they have a tax ID number, haven't done their process, and they file and pay. If they're on the trust, then the federal government, the IRS, will have jurisdiction over that trust. So that's not a
Yeah.
safe trust. All of our trusts that we set up have people who've done these processes that are not federal citizens. They don't file and pay. All that stuff
Right.
is part of them. So
No, this is great. I will absolutely follow up with you. This over delivered on my expectations, and I'm really, really glad that you came on. And I look forward to next Friday evening, 7 to 9 p.m. I have your wife on, and
yeah, she'll get to talk all about the crypto stuff.
Yeah, she is a crypto consultant. Yes.
Yes. Oh yeah. She helps people. Two aspects is people who don't know anything about the space. She brings them up to speed so that they can open a wallet and be able to buy and sell. And then also another aspect, she has more advanced classes that deal with privacy, where people are not, because as we know now, Bitcoin,
total surveillance.
Although the beauty of it is transparency, in the sense that, it keeps bankers out. That's obviously a great value, but it's definitely transparent and it's definitely visible. Not any privacy in the Bitcoin space.
There's no privacy. It's surveilled. So I'll just throw out some Epic Cash properties. You tell me if these are of interest to you in your own operating reality. So 21 million that is fixed, just like Bitcoin. There's never going to be any more. So there's a built-in scarcity with price go up technology. Censorship resistant. You can't ever say proof. I've learned, legally and with the what are those, the SEC, sorry, because ultimately the name of the game is you never want to be tapped on the shoulder and say that you are a security, right? Confiscation.
And just so you know that all of that stuff
goes away.
Deals with all of that management and stuff, is for federal citizens. Let me ask you, have we allowed the federal government to do all that stuff in business? No, that's not in the Article 1, Section 8, but all of that is in the District of Columbia, because all those entities are doing trade or business in the district. They all file there. That's all there because they all choose to be there.
That's crazy.
And because so they're all taking care of,
because they get tax advantages for
right. But how about not filing and paying? Wouldn't that be a tax advantage?
No, I know, but that's the spell that you're helping to break.
Of course.
And that's what I love.
It's like a matrix. It's like a matrix.
Yeah.
So all of that stuff, when you look at to whom it's written to, it's beautiful to say, wow, because we have pilots that when we're dealing with the FAA or the FCC, all those people, you got to look at the terms on all those things.
Yeah.
That's what opens it up. So, yeah. So, but yeah, all that SEC, they're going to try to govern the crypto industry. Now, here's the thing. The federal government already has jurisdiction over cryptos. Even what do you call the Epic Cash is under federal jurisdiction. As long as federal citizens have Epic Cash, the federal government's going to have jurisdiction over Epic Cash all day long.
Understood, but there are properties in the block.
I get it. All you're saying, and the difference between what we're talking about here is being free or being a runaway slave.
Being able to look at from what I get from what you're saying, I as a federal citizen, I would look at this and say, here are the attributes that I like that make me feel better. The 21 million censorship resistant,
privacy,
confiscation resistant, it's decentralized, permissionless, trustless, surveillance resistant, and it is what's the other one? Centralization resistance. Anyway, all of those, and what I get out of what you're saying is that's all fine. That's kind of like Indiana Jones, where the dude's coming out with that sword doing all this fancy stuff, and then Indiana Jones just says, You know, your
Well, I don't know if because you see again the analogy is that he takes out the bad guy. We're not talking about that. The thing about it is Indiana Jones is making love to the woman upstairs because he's not outside running for his life.
there you
Is
go.
the point? Okay,
There you
so the
go.
idea is that listen, if you're a federal citizen, you have an income tax liability. If you have cryptos and you're a federal citizen, the IRS is saying you'll have to have privacy coins because if you're going to keep them private, you owe it. You owe it. So
Got it.
you
Yeah.
can choose something else. Like that's why we call it state versus federal citizenship, the unknown choice. So that if you make the choice, then that way you're not going to have to hide and sneak. Now, there are always thieves in the market. Okay. There are always thieves in the market, and your government many times is a thief in the market too. So that's why privacy is paramount, because there are thieves in the market. And that's the beauty of this coin, is that it is privacy based, and
Yeah.
people want that. And that's, and in the future, privacy is going to be a financial premium. That's a fact.
Yeah, and I will, just to put in the plug for Epic Cash, go Mimble Wimble, is like with most of the privacy coins, like even Monero,
right?
You have to think about the future. You know, there's I think it's a $10 million bounty for whoever cracks Monero.
Right.
So that's already funded by the government to where they have the AI to where somebody's wanting to get that 10 million bucks. So now how are they doing that? Well, their AI will likely get to the level to where they're going to be able to, and Monero is the shell game. I love Monero. I love the privacy coin. I'm just talking to you about the paired comparison. So with Monero, you have a transaction to where you have 11 cups and nobody knows which cup you put your transaction, and then they go like this, and then they shoot it across to 11 recipients, and nobody knows who takes out the, but ultimately when that block is viewed in the future and it's cracked, they'll be able to say it went from that wallet over to this wallet. Now with Mimble Wimble, it's just a math proof within that transaction that keeps the blockchain true. And so even if it is AI cracks that block, right, that transaction, there's no data in there. It poof disappears once that transaction's gone. So there's no seller, there's no buyer, there's no quantity.
If there's no data, then there's nothing to look at.
Yeah. And so that's where, you know, and look, my thing with Epic Cash is I signed up for all these services when I first got into crypto.
Right.
And I went through 5 months where people were telling me what to invest in. And I went through 2 pump and dumps that were from, you know, these services. And so I got to a point to where I was pissed off, and I'm like, look, I'm walking into these sell walls because they know what the coins were going to be. And so I'm paying a subscription service to be dumped on. So I'm like, hell no, I'm a smart guy relatively. I want to figure out what are the questions that I need to figure out to ask to determine what an investable coin is. So I figured those out, and then I put out a call to the universe, and I said, any project leaders specifically interested in privacy projects, you want to come on my show, I will take you through a shitcoin trial. The deal is I declare you guilty at the beginning, and you have 45 minutes to prove yourself.
Sound like the government.
Yeah, that's right. And so
you have to prove your innocence.
Yeah. All of a sudden, this project leader, this founder, Max Freeman from Epic Cash, he raised his hand and he came on. And I seriously invite you, if you go to my channel and scroll all the way down, and you see me in a white wig pointing, saying, you know, shitcoin trial, not guilty, Epic Cash. That's the one to where it went from 45 minutes to 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And within 15 minutes, I'm taking off that silly wig and my gavel, and I'm getting my notebook out, and I'm like, I perceive a bona fide genius on the line here. It's time for me to go into student mode and learn. And then he kept coming back week after week after week. And so it's one of those crazy things. It's just like I pivoted from being all about crypto and crypto for newbies to where I became so educated on Epic Cash and the vision and the epicenter, the ecosystem, I'm like, I got to go all in on this. I'm going narrow and deep, and for all the right reasons. And everybody knows I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, but this next week you will get a very, very special announcement that is going to knock your socks off. And yeah. So I share that with you in that, one day I hope you and your wife are like, absolutely, with pleasure, we accept Epic Cash, because I will be your biggest fan on this show and I will include a link to you in all of my show notes if you guys do take Epic Cash, because that's my community right now. It's gone from just crypto curious people to Epic Cash holders, and it is an awesome community. It's an awesome community. It's like we do a Epic Cash live on Fridays, and I'll show you here real quick.
We'll look at it, and we definitely, you're going to send us some information over. We'll be glad to take a look at it.
But I just want to I'm not going to show the second picture because it's visually disturbing. But I do want to let you know that we learned that there is a mother who has this little boy over in Africa. And if you took his shorts down, you would see basically like a baseball bat coming out. He has this hernia, and to get him the medical attention he deserves, it's going to be the equivalent of 350 US bucks to be able to get that surgery. So we have what's called epicfundme.com to where anyone can go in there, and it's kind of like a GoFundMe, except 100% of the proceeds go to the recipient, and it is all a meritocracy. You go in and you put in that you like ultimately you're above and beyond just my link in my show notes. Your wife should go in and promote her consultancy in there to where then you can have an Epic address. She could put an Epic address and people could contact her there. But anyway, they're spinning this up over the weekend, and I committed personally that I would donate $350 worth of Epic Cash and I hope everybody else feels the same out there. What you will find is the Epic Cash community is such a giving community and such a positive community. I can't even tell you. It's a breath of fresh air in crypto, because it seems like everybody else is just kind of like angry ankle biters all the time. So, but man, it has been such a pleasure, Chris. I really, really am grateful that you invested the time you did today. I hope we can do it again. Can't wait to talk to your wife next week. And man, it has been very active in the chat. And I'm sorry, everyone. I suck at I really do.
If they have questions, they can go on the website. There's a contact us button, and they can go in and ask their questions there if they want. Like I was saying, I'm a selectman in my town. I'm just wrapping up my year. I have to deal with some budget stuff. But the next conference call we do, not next Tuesday, but the next Wednesday after that, they can come on that call and ask any question they want. I'll be glad to talk to them freely. And of course, they can always reach out to us, and we can set up private calls too if people want to do that. I'll be on the phone all day tomorrow, talking with different people and what, their transition and all that stuff.
That's great. Now the website is destinationfreedom.org. Destinationfreedom.org. So please check it out. And I know that I will be in contact with you this week, and I'm really, really excited about that. But thanks again, man. This has been fun. And you CENSORS out there, just give us a little break. We kind of went to a couple of places, but we mean well. We mean well, and we love you. We really love you. There's nobody that loves us more than Chris and me right now, and the folks in the chat. Thank you, everyone in the chat. As always, you guys rock and roll. Love to see all of you. But when I was saying I suck, it's just I suck. I want to give my guests so much attention. And the way I do that is I have a teleprompter to where I have the Zoom screen to where I'm actually watching the person speak real time.
Right.
And I always feel guilty, like when I go down to where if it looks like I'm texting, they think that I'm not paying attention. Or if I look over here, I'm not paying attention. I just like paying attention to my guests. And that is at, you don't benefit from that. So I'm not getting your questions. Sorry, but it is what it is.
Well, look, I'll if they want to ask me questions, like I said, at the website, there's a contact me. They can just ask their question. We'll get back with them either by phone or email. I don't usually just reply by email. I don't write any of those things. I usually like to engage with people. And so we'll probably end up either would have them on a call or else, I'll talk to them on the phone.
That's great. Okay, everyone. Well, look, go ahead.
You're on your way to the Super Bowl game now. Who are you going for today?
Okay, so
as you digress and transition,
I'm from Tampa, Florida.
Okay,
those rat bastards, the Rams, may they rot in hell. They are going to get the crap kicked out of them by Joe Burrow, #Joe Burrow, he's the underdog, and he's gonna come up and he is gonna just like punch him in the nose, and all of those actors and producers and Hollywood people and singers, everyone wearing your fancy pants and eating the lollipops. You guys suck. And you're gonna like there's gonna be a sea of Rams tears. Did I answer your question?
I think so. Yeah, I guess I'm very clear. So,
yeah,
it's the only time I ever watch football is on Super Bowl Sunday. So, but with Tom Brady gone, I don't know what to do after that. So I was a Patriot fan, dilemma. So yeah, so I got you.
That's the dilemma.
Go Tampa Bay.
So Rams, you suck. And otherwise we would be there. So go Cincinnati Bengals.
That's cool.
Whatever the hell they are. All right, guys.